Hi, my name is Erika Smith, and I chose to do my presentation on the mineral calcium. Calcium is a chemical element, and it has the atomic number of 20, meaning that there is 20 protons. Calcium is considered to be a mineral essential for life, and it actually is the most abundant mineral in the human body, with 99% of it being stored in the bone, which is what most people know about, and then the other 1% being found in blood, muscle, and interstitial fluid. I chose to do my presentation on calcium in particular because I personally have a family history of osteoporosis in the women in my family. Um, so all throughout my life, I've been always like nagged and nagged to consume calcium, but I never really understood why. I just knew it was for my bone health. So I just didn't know like how to get the right amount of calcium in my diet and how to prevent osteoporosis in myself. My mom always gave me calcium supplements because I wasn't really a milk drinker, dairy eater, which is, as you'll find out, a big source of calcium. But I never really understood why I was taking these supplements and what they were doing for me. So through this presentation, I got to learn a little bit. In our body, calcium really does have a big role. The 99% in the bones is an integral part of our bone structure. So calcium salts form crystals on a matrix on the protein collagen in our bones. So as these crystals become denser as we grow during childhood, they give us strength and rigidity to our skeletons. So basically, by the time we're old enough to walk, our bones are strong enough to support us. The other role of calcium in the bones is as a calcium bank. So if the calcium in our body fluids drops, the bones will actually release calcium into the fluids to maintain the balance. So the other 1% of calcium is in our body fluids. And basically the roles of this is to regulate ion transport, which is really important for nerve transmission. It also maintains our blood pressure, is essential for blood clotting, and essential for muscle contraction. So the recommended daily allowances for children, adults, and pregnant women. So these amounts really vary from group to group. I'll just quickly read through them. For children under 6 months, 200 milligrams a day. 6 to 12 months, 260 milligrams a day. 1 to 3 years, 700 milligrams a day. 4 to 8 years, 1,000 milligrams a day. 9 to 18 years, 1,300 milligrams a day. So you can see that the daily allowance is increasing with age and as a child grows. So in adults, skip to that first, 19 to 50 years, so during the majority of our lives, the recommended daily allowance is 1,000 milligrams a day. After our middle adulthood years, this remains about the same. For males, it's at 1,000 milligrams a day, but for females, it actually increases a little bit to 1,200 milligrams a day. And that's because at that point in our lives, our bone density is starting to decrease. So this calcium increases to kind of make up for that. And then from 71 plus years, that's when both males and females are starting to have losses from their bone density. So the RDA is back to 1,200 milligrams a day. And then for pregnant women, for teenage pregnant women, actually, it's recommended that they consume 1,300 milligrams a day because they're still growing themselves. So they need to make sure that they're having an adequate calcium intake to support their own bone growth. And then it's a little less for pregnant adult women at 1,000 milligrams per day. So calcium deficiency, what happens if we don't consume enough calcium? The formal term for this is hypocalcemia, and this is basically when the calcium levels in our blood are too low. So the normal amount that is supposed to be found in our blood is 2.1 to 2.6 millimoles per liter, but this is called hypocalcemia when it's under that level at under 2.1 millimoles per liter. Generally, this condition is asymptomatic, meaning no symptoms are found. And this is because basically when the blood calcium levels drop, calcium is almost immediately taken from the bone to replenish supply in the blood. So it's pretty much just balanced out. But when this happens frequently, something that happens is osteoporosis, and this is also considered a disease that happens from a calcium deficiency. This basically happens in older adults who are already having bone mass loss, so their bones are more porous, fragile, and prone to fracture, meaning that these people can just have skeletal injuries. And so a way that we can prevent osteoporosis is by having adequate calcium nutrition early in life, which means that our bones are going to be stronger and less likely to be affected by this bone mass loss so that we don't have these injuries later on in life. Nutrient toxicity. So this happens when people are consuming too much calcium. This really is a rare thing to have happen. Generally, someone is not going to consume a toxic amount of calcium just from their diet alone. And this is really only seen when people are using supplements to go above the toxic levels. So these upper limits, again, are going to vary a lot by age of the person that we're considering. So I'm going to read through these. From birth to 6 months, 1,000 milligrams plus is toxic. That's how it's going to go down all of these. Infants 7 to 12 months, 1,500 milligrams. Children 1 to 8 years, 2,500 milligrams. Children 9 to 18 years, 3,000 milligrams. Adults 19 to 50 years, 2,500 milligrams. Adults 51 plus, 2,000 milligrams. Pregnant teens, 3,000 milligrams. Pregnant adults, 2,500 milligrams. So they're all going to vary depending on how much calcium the person actually needs, and then the amount over that their body can handle. So if their body cannot handle that and they've had excessive calcium intake, the signs and symptoms that this person is going to experience pretty much no matter the age is going to be constipation, increased risk of kidney stones, and then lifelong increased risk of prostate cancer and heart disease. So for most people, we're just trying to really include more calcium in our diets. Here are some food sources I've listed with the milligrams of calcium that they provide per serving, and then the percent daily value that they make up, or basically the percentage in our daily diets of that particular day that this food is giving us. So, for example, yogurt in particular, plain low fat, an 8 ounces, an 8 ounce serving, is going to give us 415 milligrams of calcium for one serving, and then it's providing us with 42% of our daily value of calcium, meaning that we've completed consuming 42% of the calcium we need for that day. So we can read through these going down. Mozzarella, yogurt with fruit, milk, orange juice, tofu, ice cream, Chinese cabbage, bread, white and bread whole wheat. So going down the list, these food items are containing less and less calcium each. So the ones at the top have more, the ones at the bottom have less. But you can still see that there's really a variety of foods that will give us a good portion of the calcium that we need every day. So you don't have to necessarily stick to like dairy items or anything to meet your needs. You can use other foods and combine them to meet the need per day. So finally, some new and interesting research that I found on calcium. So this is about calcium score screening. So to go off topic a little bit, heart disease is one of the leading causes of death in America. So generally, we know that this happens from plaque formation in our arteries, which leads to the diagnosis of coronary heart disease, which essentially means that a person is at an increased risk of heart attacks and strokes. So generally, we know that this plaque formation comes from a term, it's called atherosclerosis, and that is fatty plaque deposits in our vessels. But so the new research is basically saying that not only does the plaque come from fatty plaque deposits, the atherosclerosis, but it also can come from calcium deposits. So again, this is going to really happen with people who are eating or consuming calcium in excess. So generally, again, those taking supplements, not from people just naturally having an intake of calcium from their meals. So now calcium is becoming actually a marker of coronary artery health using a calcium score screening. So they're looking at calcium in the arteries, which can indicate essentially a person's like risk of having coronary heart disease and whether they're diagnosed with it or not. So this also is a lot more common in older people to have calcium in their arteries in the first place. So it might really not mean anything for older people, but for middle-aged adults who really shouldn't have that much calcium in their arteries at this point in time, it signals that they're having a lot of plaque buildup in general and that they need closer monitoring or more aggressive treatment for the rest of their lives to prevent chronic conditions like this coronary heart disease. And then finally, here are the references that I've used to find all of this information. So that's it. Thank you for your time.